The golden California sun beat down on the sprawling estate of the Blackwood family, where Silicon Valley's elite gathered around a shimmering infinity pool. Champagne flutes clinked as servers in black vests wove through the crowd, their trays heavy with hors d'oeuvres. At the water's edge, 6-year-old Daniel Blackwood sat motionless in his wheelchair, his small fingers gripping the armrests as he watched the other kids leap into the deep end. His mother Victoria knelt beside him, her designer sunglasses hiding the exhaustion in her eyes. The same exhaustion that had settled there after the accident that stole her son's ability to walk. "Sweetheart, let's get you some shade," she murmured. But Daniel shook his head, his gaze locked on the rippling water. Across the lawn, 18-year-old Sofia Mendez balanced a tray of discarded appetizers, her dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail. Her mother had been the Blackwoods' head housekeeper for years, and Sofia had grown up navigating the invisible line between staff and family. While the other servers avoided the boy in the wheelchair out of discomfort or indifference, Sofia always made time for him. "Hey, champ," she said, crouching beside Daniel. "You keeping score of those cannonballs?" His face brightened. 32, he whispered. "And Jason's doing the worst ones." From his perch near the cabana, Daniel's father, Marcus Blackwood, watched the exchange with a frown. The CEO of Nexus Tech had built an empire from nothing, but no amount of money could fix the rift in his family since the accident. He pulled Victoria aside, his voice low but sharp. "Why is she talking to him again? We have therapists for that." Victoria sighed. "Marcus, she's just being kind. He's lonely." "He's not lonely," Marcus snapped. "He's surrounded by people." But the truth hung between them. None of those people really saw Daniel. Near the pool, Daniel's wheelchair creaked as he leaned forward, mesmerized by a toy speedboat zipping across the water. The right wheel teetered on the edge, unnoticed by the laughing adults, until Sofia's tray hit the pavement with a crash. "Daniel!" she shouted, sprinting toward him. The world seemed to slow as the wheelchair tipped, sending Daniel plunging into the deep end. Chaos erupted, but Sofia didn't hesitate. She dove in her sundress, billowing around her as she fought through the water. Beneath the surface, Daniel's small body sank like a stone, his arms flailing silently. Sofia grabbed him, kicking hard toward the light. As they broke the surface, gasping, she heard Marcus's voice cut through the noise. "Move! That's my son!" But when Sofia handed Daniel over, his tiny hands clung to her sleeve, his breath ragged. "You came back," he choked out. And in that moment, something in Marcus's hardened expression cracked. The poolside crowd fell silent, the weight of the unspoken truth pressing down. It wasn't the millionaire who jumped in to save his boy. It was the girl who'd always treated him like he mattered. The wheelchair lurched forward, and for one heart-stopping moment, Daniel Blackwood hung suspended in the air before crashing into the pool's depths. The splash barely registered over the din of the party. Someone's champagne flute shattered on the tiles, a woman's laughter ringing too loud, too close. Daniel's small frame sank like an anchor, the weight of his wheelchair dragging him deeper, his arms flailing in silent panic. Bubbles burst from his lips as his lungs emptied. Sofia didn't think. She didn't scream. She was already running, her sandals skidding on wet concrete as she launched herself into the water. Beneath the surface, the world turned muffled and blue. Daniel's eyes were wide with terror, his movements growing sluggish as the oxygen left his body. Sofia kicked harder, her dress tangling around her legs. Just as her fingers brushed his arm, a sharp pain shot through her calf, a muscle cramp, vicious and untimely. Gritting her teeth, she ignored it, hooking an arm around Daniel's chest. Kick, kick. The surface felt miles away. Above them, shadows moved at the pool's edge, but no one dove in. Then a miracle. Marcus Blackwood's voice, raw with fear, cut through the water's silence. "Daniel." He was kneeling at the edge, his designer sleeves rolled up, his hand outstretched but frozen as if the water were fire. Sofia broke through the surface, gasping, Daniel limp in her arms. "Take him!" she choked out, thrusting the boy toward his father. Marcus recoiled for a split second. He couldn't swim, she realized with a jolt, before the security guard shoved past him, hauling Daniel onto the deck. The crowd erupted. Someone screamed for 911. A woman fainted. Marcus dropped to his knees beside his son, his face ashen. "Breathe, damn it," he begged, pressing 2 fingers to Daniel's throat. No pulse. The guard started CPR, counting under his breath while Victoria sobbed into her hands. Sophia dragged herself onto the concrete, her legs shaking. Across the chaos, her mother Elena met her gaze, pride and terror warring in her eyes. Then a wet cough. Daniel's body jerked, water gushing from his lips as he drew a ragged breath. The crowd exhaled as one. But the relief was short-lived. Marcus stood abruptly, his voice a whip crack. Who left the wheelchair unattended? His glare swept the crowd, landing on a young caterer clutching a tray. Were you supposed to be watching him? The girl stammered, tears welling. Sophia stepped forward, dripping. Mr. Blackwood, it was an accident. The brake must have... Enough! Marcus snarled, turning on her. For a heartbeat, Sophia saw it, the guilt beneath the rage. The truth he couldn't voice. This is my fault. Then his mask slammed back into place. This party is over. As guests scattered, Sophia watched Daniel's small hand reach for his father's. Marcus hesitated, then took it, squeezing so tight his knuckles whitened. A silent promise. A beginning. The wail of sirens cut through the night as paramedics rushed into the Blackwood estate. Marcus Blackwood cradled Daniel's shivering body against his chest, his usual composure shattered. "Stay with me, champ," he murmured, his voice cracking. Daniel's eyelids fluttered open, his gaze drifting past his father to lock onto Sophia, standing a few feet away, her clothes still dripping. With a weak hand, he reached for her. "Soph saved me," he whispered. Inside the sterile confines of Stanford Children's Hospital, Marcus paced the ICU hallway like a caged animal. His reflection in the glass walls showed a man unraveling tie-loose sleeves, rolled up his Rolex, ticking away the seconds of his son's fragile life. When Dr. Reynolds finally appeared, her expression was guarded. "Daniel's stable, but we're monitoring for secondary drowning. Given his spinal injury, his lung capacity is already compromised." Victoria let out a choked sob from her seat in the waiting area. "Can we see him?" The doctor hesitated. "He's been asking for Sophia." Marcus stiffened. "Absolutely not. She's not family." Meanwhile, in the hospital cafeteria, Sophia sat hunched over an untouched cup of coffee, her mother's arm around her shoulders. "Mija, you're freezing," Elena murmured, rubbing warmth into Sophia's arms. "We need to get you home." Sophia shook her head violently. "Not until I know he's okay." A shadow fell across their table, Marcus's personal assistant, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Blackwood requests your presence." The private waiting room was eerily quiet. Marcus stood by the window, his back to her, the city lights painting him in stark relief. When he finally turned, Sophia saw something she'd never seen before: vulnerability. "He won't stop calling for you." Marcus admitted, the words like gravel in his throat. "The doctors think it might calm him." As Sophia entered Daniel's room, the machines beeped a fragile rhythm. Tubes snaked across his small body, an oxygen mask obscuring half his face. But when he saw her, his eyes lit up. "You came back," he rasped. Then the twist no one expected from the doorway, Marcus spoke, his voice barely audible. "Stay, please." It wasn't a command. It was a plea. And in that moment, something shifted, the first crack in the fortress Marcus had built around his heart. Outside, the rain began to fall, washing away the remnants of a day that had changed everything. Daniel looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, his body dwarfed by the tangle of wires and beeping machines. When Sophia entered, his face lit up despite the oxygen tube under his nose. "You came," he whispered, reaching for her with a shaky hand. She took it gently, careful of the IV line. "Of course I came, superhero," she said, forcing a smile. "You think a little pool water could scare me off?" From the corner, Victoria Blackwood watched with pursed lips, her manicured fingers gripping her designer handbag like a lifeline. The sight of this college student, this nobody, drawing a smile from her son, when she couldn't, sent a fresh wave of guilt crashing through her. "Thank you," she managed the words, tasting like vinegar. "But Daniel needs his rest now." Just as Sophia turned to leave, Daniel's fingers tightened around hers. "Promise you'll come back?" His voice was barely audible over the hum of the ventilator. Before she could answer, alarms blared. Doctors rushed in, shouting medical terms that made Sophia's blood run cold. Code blue. We need crash cart now. The Blackwoods were ushered into the hallway, but Sophia caught one last glimpse of Daniel's small body convulsing as the medical team descended. Marcus slammed his fist against the wall, leaving a dent in the drywall. "This is my fault," he growled, his voice raw. "I should have—" The next morning, Sophia woke to her phone buzzing incessantly. The local news had exploded with the story, "Janitor's daughter saves tech mogul's son in dramatic pool rescue." There were photos her in her soaked sundress, Daniel limp in her arms, Marcus's horrified face in the background. The comment section was worse. "Gold digger alert." She knew what she was doing. That family's worth billions. Her mother hovered in the doorway, wringing her hands. "Marcus Blackwood called," she said quietly. "He wants to see us at the estate at noon." Sophia's stomach dropped. "He's firing you." Elena nodded, her eyes glistening. "With your tuition due next month." The drive to the Blackwood estate felt like a funeral procession. But when they arrived, the gates swung open to reveal something unexpected. A crowd of reporters camped at the foot of the driveway, and standing on the front steps, Marcus Blackwood himself, flanked by his entire board of directors. As Sophia stepped out of the car, cameras flashed. Marcus cleared his throat, unfolding a piece of paper with shaking hands. "Effective immediately," he announced to the press, "the Blackwood Family Foundation is endowing a full scholarship in Sofia Mendez's name at Stanford University." He met Sophia's stunned gaze. "And we're installing a wheelchair-accessible pool at the Children's Hospital in Daniel's honor." For the first time in years, the billionaire's steely composure cracked. "Because some heroes," he said, his voice breaking, "don't wear capes." At precisely noon, Sophia and Elena stood at the Blackwood Estate service entrance, the same door they'd used for years, but today everything felt different. The door swung open before they could ring the bell, revealing Marcus Blackwood in a wrinkled dress shirt, his usual commanding presence replaced by something raw and vulnerable. "Come in," he said, leading them not to the staff kitchen but to his private study, a space Elena had only ever dusted when the family was away. The room smelled of bourbon and regret. Victoria sat stiffly by the fireplace, her perfect manicure tapping against a crystal glass. "Daniel's awake," Marcus began without preamble. "The doctors say he'll recover fully." Sophia exhaled in relief, but Marcus continued, his voice rough. "He won't stop asking for you. Calls you his pool angel." Victoria's glass clinked sharply against the marble side table. "What my husband is trying to say," she interjected, "is that we'd like to offer you a position. Daniel's full-time companion." Elena's breath hitched. Sophia's mind raced. This wasn't just a job offer. It was a bridge between two worlds that had never truly touched. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes haunted. "You'd help with his therapy. Be there when—" His voice cracked. "When I can't." The unspoken truth hung heavy. The man who controlled a tech empire couldn't face his son's pain. Sophia hesitated, then dropped a bombshell of her own. "I start at Stanford next month." A beat of silence. Then Marcus did something unimaginable. He laughed, a broken, grateful sound. "We know. That's why we're endowing a scholarship in your name." He slid a check across the desk with a number that made Elena gasp. "For your tuition, and your mother's promotion to household manager." Victoria stood abruptly, her composure shattering. "For God's sake, Marcus, just say it. We need her." The admission seemed to cost her everything. As Sophia reached for the check, her fingers brushed against something else, a faded photo tucked under Marcus's desk blotter. A younger Marcus, grinning beside a wheelchair-bound veteran at a VA hospital. The caption read, "Volunteer of the Year 2005. Their eyes met. In that moment, Sophia understood this wasn't charity. It was penance. Outside, paparazzi cameras flashed against the windows, but for once, Marcus didn't flinch. "Let them see," he said quietly. "Let them all see." The hospital corridor was too bright, the antiseptic smell too sharp, as Sophia stepped out of Daniel's room only to freeze mid-step. Marcus Blackwood stood just feet away, flanked not by a doctor but by a shark-eyed man in a $3,000 suit, clutching a legal briefcase. The attorney's gaze locked onto Sophia with cold appraisal. "Miss Mendez," Marcus said too smoothly, "this is Mr. Whitaker. He'll be handling your employment paperwork." The attorney extended a manila envelope. "Standard liability waivers and confidentiality agreements. Sign today and the scholarship check clears by morning." Sophia's fingers trembled as she took the envelope. Through the open door, she heard Daniel's small voice. "Dad, is Sophia still here?" Marcus's jaw tightened. She was just leaving. Then came the twist. Elena's voice, sharp with a mother's fury, cut through the tension. "Actually, she's not." Sophia turned to see her mother striding down the hallway, still in her housekeeping uniform, holding a battered leather book. "I think you'll want to see this first, Mr. Blackwood." She thrust the book at Marcus, a decades-old photo album. On the yellowed page was a younger Marcus, maybe 19, kneeling beside a wheelchair-bound boy at Camp Hope. The caption read, "Best Buddies, Marcus and Javier, 1992. Marcus went deathly pale. "Where did you—" "Your mother gave it to me," Elena said quietly. "The year I started working for you. She said you'd forgotten where you came from." Daniel's monitor began beeping frantically inside the room. "Dad!" His voice was laced with panic. I can't feel my legs again." 3 things happened at once. 1. The attorney reached for the envelope in Sophia's hands. 2. Marcus's phone buzzed with a Wall Street Journal alert. Blackwood tech stock plummets after pool incident, video goes viral. 3. And Sophia made her choice. She shoved past them all back into Daniel's room, where the boy was hyperventilating, his small hands clawing at numb legs that would never feel water again. "It's okay," she whispered, gathering him into her arms as the monitors screamed. "I've got you." Over Daniel's shoulder, she locked eyes with Marcus in the doorway, the billionaire brought to his knees by a memory of photo, and the terrible truth that money couldn't fix what really mattered. Outside, the attorney's phone rang. The vultures were circling. But in that hospital room, for the first time in years, Marcus Blackwood finally saw his son. Really saw him. And it broke him wide open. The hospital cafeteria hummed with noise, but Sophia's world had narrowed to the woman sitting across from her, Victoria Blackwood, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against a styrofoam cup of untouched coffee. "You don't understand what you're walking into," Victoria said, her voice low and urgent. "That contract Harrison brought. It's not just about confidentiality. It gives Richard control over what you say, where you work, even who you date." Sophia's stomach twisted. Outside the window, a news helicopter circled the hospital like a vulture. "Then why warn me?" Victoria's composure cracked. "Because Daniel looks at you the way he used to look at me." Her whisper was raw with pain. "Before the accident. Before Richard turned our family into another one of his business ventures." A text buzzed on Sophia's phone. Her mother sent a screenshot of a TMZ headline, "Millionaire's neglect exposed, pool rescue, nanny speaks out." Except Sophia hadn't spoken to anyone. Victoria saw it too. "They're planting stories," she hissed. "Richard's team, to pressure you into signing." She slid a key across the table. "Storage Unit 114B at Secure Space on 5th. My husband doesn't know it exists." Sophia's fingers closed around the cold metal. "What's in it?" "Proof that Richard knew the pool gate latch was broken." Victoria stood abruptly as her phone lit up with Marcus's caller ID. "He'll deny it. The staff will back him up. But the maintenance logs don't lie." As Victoria walked away, Sophia's phone rang, an unknown number. She answered to hear a reporter's eager voice. "Miss Mendez, care to comment on rumors you're being paid $500, $1,000 to keep quiet about the Blackwoods' negligence?" The pieces snapped together with terrifying clarity. They were being boxed in from both sides, Marcus with his contracts, the media with their narrative. Then came the twist. Daniel's voice echoed down the hallway. "Sophia, wait." She turned to see him being wheeled toward her by a nurse, his small face alight with excitement. "Dad said, yes, I can go to your college's wheelchair basketball games." Behind him stood Marcus, his expression unreadable. The billionaire's phone was open to a just-published press release. Blackwood Foundation announces $10 million accessibility initiative inspired by Daniel Blackwood and Sophia Mendez. 2 moves ahead, as always. But this time, Sophia saw the third move, the storage key burning a hole in her pocket, and the truth waiting in Unit 114B. She met Marcus's gaze and made her choice. "Game on," she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. The hospital room felt suddenly colder as Lily watched Ethan's small fingers tighten around his bedsheet, his eyes glued to the news report. The footage showed their pool, the same one that had nearly taken his life, now surrounded by police tape, as reporters shouted questions about criminal negligence. "Lily," Ethan's voice was barely a whisper, "are we in trouble?" Before she could answer, Vivian Blackwood swept into the room, her Chanel purse clutched like a weapon. "Turn that off," she ordered, snatching the remote. The screen went dark just as a reporter uttered the words, "possible manslaughter charges." Vivian's hands trembled as she turned to Lily. "We need to talk. Now." In the hallway, she gripped Lily's arm with surprising strength. "Richard's lying. Marcus Stone isn't a business associate. He's a private investigator. Richard hired him after the accident to," she swallowed hard, "to find evidence that Ethan's paralysis wasn't permanent." Lily's blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "That storage unit I told you about," Vivian's whisper was frantic. "It contains medical reports Richard paid doctors to falsify, proof Ethan could have walked again with proper treatment." A nurse rounded the corner and Vivian instantly composed herself, flashing a society smile. As the nurse passed, Ethan's voice floated from his room. "Mom, where's Lily?" Vivian's mask slipped again. "He asks for you more than us," she said bitterly. Then with sudden desperation, "Take him!" Lily recoiled. "What? Not forever, just get him out of here tomorrow when he's discharged. Take him somewhere safe until I can deal with Richard." Vivian pressed a set of car keys into Lily's hand. "The silver Lexus in spot 42B. It's registered under my maiden name." Footsteps echoed down the hall, Richard's distinctive stride. Vivian's next words came in a rush. "Marcus Stone found something. Richard's panicking. If he thinks you know, Vivian." Richard's voice cut through the hallway as he rounded the corner, Harrison Wells at his side. "What are you doing out here?" Vivian's laugh was too bright. "Just thanking our little hero again." She squeezed Lily's arm, a warning. "We'll see you tomorrow for Ethan's discharge." As they walked away, Lily unclenched her fist. The car keys left crescent-shaped marks in her palm. Behind her, Ethan called out again, his voice tinged with fear. In that moment, Lily realized the terrible truth. She wasn't just saving Ethan from drowning anymore. She was saving him from his own family. The game had changed. And tomorrow, win or lose, someone wasn't walking away. The envelope felt like a lead weight in Lily's lap as the town car glided through Boston's glittering streets. The $10,000 check taunted her enough to cover her mother's overdue rent, her textbooks, maybe even a used car, but at what cost? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, coordinates and a time 42.3601 degree G and 71.0589 degree W, 1:30 p.m. Then immediately after, wrong coffee shop. Come here instead. MS. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror again. "Mr. Blackwood was very clear, miss. Signed contract or no ride tomorrow." Lily's fingers tightened around the pen. Through the window, the Charles River flashed black under bridge lights, the same water where... Her thought shattered as the car swerved violently. A motorcycle had cut them off, its rider clad head to toe in black. The driver cursed, but Lily saw what he didn't. The biker's gloved hand slipping something under their rear bumper before speeding away. "Probably a damn paparazzo," the driver muttered. But Lily's pulse pounded in her throat. That wasn't random. She scrawled her signature on the contract just as they pulled up to her apartment building. The second the car door closed, she ran to the rear bumper and found it. A magnetic GPS tracker still blinking red. Inside her apartment, Rosa gasped at the check. "Dios mío, this changes everything." But Lily was already at the window, peering through blinds at the town car idling below. "No, Mommy, this is hush money." She showed her the tracker. "They're watching us." Rosa's face hardened. "Then we call the police." "And say what, that a billionaire gave my college fund a boost." Lily's phone buzzed again, Marcus Stone calling back. She answered on speaker. "Change of plans, Miss Rodriguez. Your apartment's being watched. There's a fire escape out back. Meet me at the old shipyard in 30 minutes if you want the truth about Ethan's first accident." Rosa grabbed Lily's wrist. "It's a trap!" But Lily was already stuffing the check in her pocket. "That $10,000 Richard paid 5 times that to silence the witness who saw him run the red light that paralyzed Ethan." Her voice broke. "The business call he took during the party. He was paying off another witness, one who saw him disable Ethan's wheelchair brake." The room spun. Outside, the town car's engine revved. Lily made her choice. She pressed the check into Rosa's hand. "Deposit this first thing tomorrow, then pack your bags." "But where?" "Wherever that GPS tracker leads them." Lily said, slipping out the fire escape into the night. "It won't be to you." Somewhere in Boston, a motorcycle engine roared to life. The game was on. The foyer of the Blackwood mansion buzzed with hollow celebration as Ethan's new wheelchair glided across the marble floor, a $50,000 piece of engineering that couldn't hide the truth. His small hands gripped the armrests too tight, his smile faltering when the photographer's flash blinded him. Lily knelt beside him. "Hey, superhero, missed you." Ethan leaned in close, his whisper barely audible over the chatter. "Dad's acting weird. He won't stop touching my chair." Before Lily could respond, Richard materialized behind them, his hand clamping onto her shoulder. "A word, Miss Rodriguez." He steered her toward the study where Harrison Wells stood smugly beside two new documents. One, a termination notice for Rosa. The other, a revised NDA with an even larger check paper-clipped to it. "Last chance," Richard said, clicking a pen. "Sign today or your mother loses her job and that scholarship vanishes." The air left Lily's lungs. Through the window, she saw Rosa helping Ethan with his cookies, unaware her livelihood hung in the balance. Then a miracle, Ethan's voice piped up from the hallway. "Dad, my chair's doing that thing again." Richard's facade cracked. "What thing?" The beeping. Ethan rolled into view, tapping his wheelchair's control panel where a red light flashed. "Like when you showed Mr. Wells the secret button yesterday." A deadly silence fell. Lily's eyes locked onto the wheelchair's serial number STN 114B, the same digits as Victoria's storage unit. Wells moved first, lunging for Ethan's controls. "Just a glitch, champ." "Don't touch him." Lily blocked the lawyer's path as the truth crystallized. This wasn't just a wheelchair. It was Richard's alibi rigged to malfunction on command. Ethan, oblivious, kept pressing buttons until a hidden compartment popped open, revealing a voice recorder. "Cool, Dad, you didn't tell me it had..." Richard snatched the device, but not before Lily saw the label, Stone Interview, backup copy. The room tilted. Marcus Stone hadn't just dug up dirt on Richard, he'd recorded it. And Richard had hidden the evidence in the one place no one would suspect, his son's wheelchair. Outside, tires screeched. Through the window, Lily saw a black motorcycle skid to a stop at the gates. Ethan tugged her sleeve. "Is that your friend? The one who texted you about the storage key?" Every head swiveled toward Lily. The game was up. She grabbed Ethan's hand. "Time to go, superhero." As the front door burst open, Lily made her choice not for the money, not for the secrets, but for the boy who'd trusted her when his own family failed him. The real rescue was just beginning. The coffee shop's ambient jazz couldn't mask the tension, as Marcus Stone's fingers lingered on the flash drive. "What's on it?" Lily demanded, refusing to touch the device. Stone leaned in, his cologne overpowering. Proof that Richard sabotaged Ethan's first wheelchair. The accident was staged, an excuse to collect a $20 million insurance policy tied to the boy's paralysis. Lily's stomach turned to ice. Outside, a black SUV with tinted windows idled at the curb. "Then why tell me?" she whispered. "Because Richard's about to do it again." Stone tapped the flash drive. "This contains medical records showing Ethan's nerves were regenerating. With proper therapy, he could have walked within a year. But Richard halted the treatments." A text buzzed Lily's phone. "Rosa, where are you? Richard's asking questions." Stone noticed her panic. "They're watching us right now." He nodded subtly toward the barista, too muscular for a coffee shop employee, his earpiece visible when he turned. "Take this to Channel 7 News. Ask for Diane Carlisle. She's been..." The shop door burst open. Harrison Wells strode in with two men in Blackwood security polos. "There she is." Lily acted on instinct. She palmed the flash drive while accidentally knocking over her coffee. As the scalding liquid splashed across the table, Stone lunged to protect his suit, giving her just enough cover to slip the drive into her sock. "Miss Rodriguez," Wells said smoothly, "Mr. Blackwood was concerned when you disappeared from Ethan's welcome lunch." His gaze flicked to Stone. "I see why." Stone wiped coffee from his sleeves. "We were discussing a donation to Children's Hospital. Lily here is quite the philanthropist." Wells's smile didn't reach his eyes. "How civic-minded. The car's outside, Miss Rodriguez. Ethan's asking for you." As they marched her to the SUV, Lily spotted the barista on his phone calling someone watching her intently. The flash drive burned against her ankle. Back at the mansion, Ethan waited in the garden, his new wheelchair beeping ominously. "Lily, my chair's doing the thing again." Richard materialized behind them. "Just a software glitch," he said too quickly, punching a code into the control panel. The beeping stopped, but Lily had seen it, the error message flashing briefly before disappearing. STN 114B, file corrupted. The same numbers as Victoria's storage unit, the same initials as Marcus Stone. Somewhere in Boston, a motorcycle revved its engine. The endgame had begun. The sunroom's glass walls should have made Ethan visible, but the drawn blinds turned it into a shadowy cage. Lily pressed her ear against the door, Victoria's voice sharp with panic. "Richard, for God's sake, he's your son." Then the unmistakable sound of a slap. Lily burst in to find Victoria clutching her cheek, Ethan cowering in his wheelchair, and Richard looming over them with a look of cold fury. Harrison Wells stood by the French doors, calmly filming the scene on his phone. "Ah, Miss Rodriguez," Richard said without turning. "Perfect timing. You can witness what happens to people who betray me." Ethan's wheelchair suddenly jerked forward, remotely controlled, Lily realized with horror, steering him toward the sunroom's swimming pool. The same pool where he'd nearly drowned. "Dad!" Ethan's voice trembled as the chair inched closer to the water's edge. "It's doing it again." Victoria lunged, but Wells blocked her path. "Insurance pays triple for repeat accidents," the lawyer murmured. "Such a tragedy, so preventable." Lily's fingers closed around the flash drive in her pocket. Stone's words echoed in her mind. "He's looking for a distraction from the financial crimes probe." She made her move. "Mr. Blackwood." Lily's voice cut through the tension. "Channel 7 News just aired this." She held up her phone a bluff, but the screen showed enough of Diane Carlisle's contact info to seem real. "They have the Volkov documents, and they know you arranged Ethan's first accident." Richard froze. The wheelchair stopped 2 feet from the pool. Wells's phone chose that moment to ring. He paled as he read the caller ID FBI, Special Agent Reyes. Victoria seized the distraction, yanking Ethan's wheelchair to safety. But Richard was already at Lily's throat, slamming her against the wall. "What did you do?" he hissed. Behind him, the French doors burst open. Not the FBI, but Marcus Stone, flanked by 2 camera crews. "Live broadcast, Richard," Stone announced. "Courtesy of that tracker you planted on Lily's car." Chaos erupted. Ethan, forgotten in the commotion, did something extraordinary. He stood, wobbly, gripping his chair for support, but undeniably on his feet. "Dad!" The single word shattered Richard's facade. The cameras swiveled, and in that moment, Lily saw the truth. Some conspiracies are real. Some monsters wear designer suits. And sometimes the bravest thing a 6-year-old can do is stand up to his father, literally. As the FBI cars screeched up the driveway, Lily grabbed Ethan's hand. The real rescue wasn't from water or wheelchairs. It was from the man who'd engineered both. The study's antique clock ticked loudly in the sudden silence. Richard's face cycled through shock fury, then forced calm as he crouched beside Ethan's wheelchair. "Those cameras are for security, champ, to protect us." Ethan's small fingers hovered over his chair's touchscreen. "Then why did you watch Lily instead of the bad guys?" He tapped the screen, pulling up a video feed, Richard reviewing footage of Lily's meeting with Stone. Lily's breath caught. The flash drive in her pocket suddenly felt heavier. Richard's smile turned dangerous. "Ethan, give Daddy the tablet." "No." The word hung in the air the first time Ethan had ever disobeyed his father. His thumb swiped across the screen. "I sent it to Mom, too. And I think I clicked share on your investor email list." Richard lunged, but it was too late. The room's speakers crackled to life with Marcus Stone's voice. "The car accident that paralyzed Ethan wasn't an accident. Richard is desperate. Volkov's money." Chaos erupted. Victoria burst in, phone in hand, her face pale. "Richard, the board members are calling. They're demanding an emergency meeting." From the hallway came Rosa's gasp. She stood frozen, clutching a stack of freshly printed emails bearing the Blackwood Technologies letterhead. "Mija, these bank transfers." Richard's facade crumbled. He grabbed Ethan's wheelchair, but the boy did something miraculous. He stood trembling but upright and took 2 shaky steps toward Lily. "You promised you'd never let go," he whispered, quoting their pool rescue. 3 things happened simultaneously. 1. Harrison Wells pulled a burner phone from his pocket and dialed a number labeled V. 2. The study's windows illuminated with flashing blue lights, FBI vehicles swarming the estate. 3. Richard Blackwood made his choice. He snatched Ethan up and bolted for the private elevator, shoving past Lily. But Ethan twisted in his arms, reaching back with desperate fingers. "Lily, don't let go!" She didn't. Lily tackled Richard at the elevator doors, sending them both crashing to the floor. Ethan tumbled free, landing safely in Victoria's arms just as armed agents stormed the room. Special Agent Reyes stepped forward, cuffing a dazed Richard. "Richard Blackwood, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and attempted im per insamin per benign." "Dad!" Ethan's voice cut through the legal jargon. He stood on his own 2 feet, tears streaming down his face. "Why?" Richard's answer was lost in the commotion, but Lily heard it clear as day. "Because some men love power more than their own children." As they led him away, Ethan took his first unaided steps not toward his father, but into Lily's waiting arms. The real healing could finally begin. The conservatory's glass walls turned the approaching FBI agents into looming shadows, their movements sharp and purposeful. Ethan's small hands clutched Lily's sleeve. "Are they coming to arrest Dad?" Before she could answer, the French doors burst open, but it wasn't the FBI. Victoria Blackwood stumbled in her designer dress, torn at the shoulder, a cell phone clutched in her shaking hand. "They found the offshore accounts," she gasped. "Richard's trying to flee through the wine cellar tunnel." Ethan made a wounded sound. Lily's mind raced. The flash drive from Stone was still in her pocket, but the real evidence was standing right in front of them, a mother willing to betray her husband to save her son. "Mrs. Blackwood," Lily said carefully, "what do you want to do?" Victoria's gaze locked onto Ethan. For the first time, Lily saw something real in those usually cold eyes, a mother's love, raw and terrified. "I want my son safe." The decision crystallized in an instant. Lily grabbed Ethan's emergency backpack from his wheelchair compartment, the one she'd secretly stocked days ago with his medication-favorite books and the stuffed elephant he slept with. "Then we go now, through the greenhouse exit." Ethan's wheelchair couldn't navigate the narrow service path, but what happened next would stay with Lily forever. Victoria knelt, turning her back to her son. "Climb on, sweetheart, like when you were little." As Ethan wrapped his arms around his mother's neck, Lily saw the truth. This woman had carried her son long before his paralysis through countless society events and photo ops, bearing his weight and the weight of expectations. Today she would carry him to freedom. They made it 3 steps before Richard appeared in the doorway, his usually impeccable hair disheveled, a leather satchel stuffed with documents under one arm. "Victoria!" he snarled. "Put him down!" The air left the room. Ethan's whisper broke the silence. "Dad, are you the bad guy?" Richard's face did something terrible. Then it softened. "No, champ. I'm just a man who made some mistakes." He reached into his satchel, and for one heart-stopping moment, Lily thought he might pull a weapon. Instead, it was a stuffed dinosaur, Ethan's favorite from before the accident, threadbare from love. "Take this," Richard said, tossing it to Victoria. Then he did the one thing no one expected. He turned and walked straight toward the FBI agents now swarming the mansion. As they handcuffed him, Richard called back over his shoulder, not to his wife, but to Lily. "The Swiss account passwords are in the dinosaur. Use it for his medical care." Then he was gone, leaving behind the wreckage of his empire and the family he'd sacrificed for it. Outside, the morning sun broke through the clouds as a familiar black motorcycle pulled up to the gates. Marcus Stone removed his helmet, revealing not a vengeful whistleblower, but a grieving Uncle Richard's estranged brother cut from the family years ago for asking too many questions. "Uncle Marcus," Ethan whispered in disbelief. Stone opened his arms. "I told you I'd come back when it was safe, buddy." As the pieces fell into place, Lily understood this was never about money or revenge. It was about bringing a boy home to the family who'd never stopped waiting for him. The real rescue wasn't from the pool or the wheelchair or even Richard's cruelty. It was from the lie that love has conditions. And as Ethan took his first unaided steps toward his uncle, Lily knew some bonds can't be broken no matter how deep the water. The agent's radio crackled with static as Lily shielded Ethan with her body. "His medical needs are complex," she said firmly. "He requires specific medications every 6 hours and—" Agent Ramirez held up a hand. "Miss, I think there's been a misunderstanding." He knelt beside Ethan's wheelchair. "Buddy, your Uncle Marcus is outside. Want to go see him?" Ethan's tear-streaked face lit up. "Uncle Marcus is here." The name hit Lily like a lightning bolt. Marcus Stone was family. Ramirez nodded. "He's been working with us for months to keep you safe." He lowered his voice. "And he's got someone else who's been waiting a long time to see you." Through the conservatory's glass walls, Lily saw Marcus standing at the gates, not in a suit, but in faded jeans and a leather jacket, holding hands with a woman in a wheelchair. Ethan's breath caught. "Mommy." The word shattered Lily's understanding of everything. Victoria Blackwood wasn't Ethan's mother. The woman at the gates was her face bearing the same scars as the photos from Ethan's accident 2 years prior. The real Vivian Blackwood. Ramirez gently explained as Ethan stared in wonder, "Your dad paid doctors to say your mom didn't survive the crash. But she's been recovering at a special facility working with the FBI to—" Ethan didn't wait for the rest. With a strength that defied his small frame, he pushed himself up from his wheelchair, not standing but lunging forward with desperate crawling motions toward the glass. "Mommy!" The conservatory doors burst open. The woman, the real Vivian, wheeled herself inside, her arms outstretched. Marcus followed, tears streaming down his weathered face. Lily backed away as mother and son reunited in a tangle of limbs and sobs. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. "Thank you," he murmured, "for being there when we couldn't." Outside, federal agents loaded Richard into a squad car. The imposter, Victoria, was already in custody. Her true identity revealed a Russian operative planted to monitor Richard's dealings with Volkov. As the pieces fell into place, Lily finally understood. The pool incident wasn't an accident. The wheelchair wasn't just a wheelchair. And her role in this was never random. Marcus pressed a business card into her hand. FBI Victim Services. "Ethan will need you during the transition," he said, "if you're willing." Lily looked at the boy now cradled in his real mother's arms, both of them whole in ways that had nothing to do with walking. Some rescues take years, some families are chosen, and sometimes the deepest wounds heal when the truth finally comes to light. She pocketed the card. "I'm in." The apartment's radiator hissed as Ethan traced a finger over the cracks in Lily's ceiling, the ones shaped like a dragon she'd told him when he couldn't sleep. "It's smaller than my closet," he whispered, "but I like it." Lily smoothed his blanket, the good one Rosa only brought out for guests. "Your mom will be here tomorrow," she reminded him. The words still felt surreal. The real Vivian Blackwood alive after all these years. Ethan's small hand found hers under the covers. "Will you still be my friend when I live with her?" Before Lily could answer, a knock startled them both. Agent Ramirez stood in the doorway holding a familiar stuffed dinosaur, the one Richard had tossed to Victoria. "Thought you might want this champ," Ethan recoiled. "That's Dad's." Ramirez knelt carefully, unzipping the dinosaur's hidden compartment. Inside wasn't account passwords, but a faded photo, a younger Richard laughing with Marcus, and a dark-haired woman at a beach. The woman held a baby. "Your mom," Ramirez said gently. "Your real mom." This was taken 2 weeks before the accident. Ethan touched the photo with trembling fingers. "Dad lied about everything, didn't he?" The truth hung heavy in the room. Then came the twist. Rosa gasped from the kitchen doorway. "Dios mío," she pointed at the photo. "I know that woman." Lily's head snapped up. "What?" "She cleaned offices in our building years ago," Rosa whispered, "before she disappeared. She gave me this when I was pregnant with you." She rushed to her bedroom, returning with a tiny silver medal, St. Christopher, patron saint of travelers. She said it kept her baby safe. Ethan's eyes widened. "That's mine, Mom always said." He flipped the dinosaur upside down, revealing a hidden pocket stitched inside. "She put one in all my toys." Ramirez's radio crackled. "We need to go," he said urgently. "Now!" Because the photo wasn't just a memento, it was proof. The beach house in the background, a known Volkov property. Richard hadn't just falsified Vivian's death, he'd stolen her from the Russians first. As they bundled Ethan into a Bureau SUV, Lily understood. The pool incident wasn't an accident. The wheelchair wasn't just a wheelchair, and her mother's connection to Vivian. No such thing as coincidence. The final rescue was just beginning. The radiator clanged as Vivian Blackwood stared at Rosa's offer, her perfectly manicured fingers tightening around the chipped mug. "Here," she repeated, as if the word were foreign. Lily held her breath. The apartment barely fit 2 people. Where would they put a woman who probably owned more shoes than they had floor space? Then Vivian did something extraordinary. She laughed. Not her usual society titter, but a deep, real laugh that turned into a sob halfway through. "I don't even know how to work a dishwasher," she admitted, wiping her eyes. "Richard handled everything. Everything." Ethan stirred on the pull-out couch, his sleepy voice floating through the dim light. "Mom!" Vivian rushed to him, kneeling beside the makeshift bed. "I'm here, sweetheart." Ethan's small hand reached up to touch her face. Not the polished mask of Victoria Blackwood, but the tired, makeup-free version of his real mother. "You look different." Vivian caught his hand. "This is what I really look like, baby. No more pretending." Rosa quietly pulled spare blankets from the hall closet. Lily watched, stunned, as her mother did something she'd never seen before. She unfolded the ancient sofa bed in their tiny living room, the one that hadn't been used since Abuela visited 10 years ago. "For you," Rosa said, simply handing Vivian a set of flannel pajamas. Vivian stared at the faded plaid like it was a foreign object. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Be a real mother." Ethan sat up suddenly, wide awake. "It's easy, Mom. You just have to be you." The simplicity of it shattered the last of Vivian's defenses. She gathered him into her arms, rocking slightly, as Rosa draped a blanket around them both. Lily turned away to give them privacy and found herself face to face with a photograph on the wall she'd never really examined before. A younger Rosa at some charity gala standing beside a dark-haired woman in a maid's uniform. The woman held a baby, Ethan's mother. The truth clicked into place with sudden, breathtaking clarity. Rosa hadn't just known Vivian in passing. She'd been there, at the beginning, before the accident, before the lies. As if sensing her revelation, Rosa touched Lily's shoulder. "Some stories take years to finish, Mia," she murmured. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall, blanketing the city in quiet. Inside, two mothers, one who'd lost everything, one who'd never had much to begin with, sat side by side on a second-hand couch, watching over a boy who'd finally come home. Not to a mansion, not to a fortune, but to the truth. And that, Lily realized as she tucked the extra blanket around Vivian's shoulders, was the real rescue. Vivian's hands trembled around the mug as she spoke the words that would change everything. "I need you to testify with me." The apartment seemed to shrink around them. Rosa's spoon clattered against her teacup. Lily's breath caught. This wasn't just about Richard's crimes anymore. It was about choosing sides in a war they'd never signed up for. Ethan's soft snores filled the silence as Vivian continued, her voice barely above a whisper. Richard kept records. Every bribe, every offshore account, hidden in plain sight. Lily's mind flashed to the mansion's library, the complete works of Shakespeare. Richard was always reading, the ones with uncracked spines. The books, Vivian nodded. Page 47 of every volume, microdots embedded in the illustrations. She reached into her pocket and slid a silver key across the table, the kind used for safe deposit boxes. "Zurich, under your mother's name." Rosa gasped. "How?" "Because you were the only staff member Richard never bothered to investigate," Vivian said. The one person he considered beneath his notice. The pieces fell into place with dizzying speed. Rosa's unexplained bonuses, the strange deposits she'd assumed were payroll errors. Richard had been using her identity as a shadow account for years. Lily's phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "Check the dinosaur." She rushed to Ethan's side, carefully extracting the stuffed animal from his sleeping grasp. A seam along its belly had been clumsily restitched. Inside, nestled beside the St. Christopher medal, was a micro SD card. Vivian paled. "That's not mine. I didn't—" The apartment lights flickered. Then darkness. Through the window, Lily saw the streetlights had gone out too. The entire block plunged into blackness. A car door slammed outside. "Get down!" Rosa yanked Vivian to the floor as glass shattered. Someone had kicked in their front door. Flashlight beams cut through the dark, illuminating black tactical gear. Not FBI, not police. "Victoria," Vivian breathed. The imposter's voice rang out from the hallway. "You didn't really think it would be that easy, did you?" In the chaos, Lily made a split-second decision. She shoved the dinosaur into Ethan's arms and whispered the words that would save them all. "Play dead." Then she stood, hands raised, as the flashlight beams blinded her. Some rescues require swimming pools, some require wheelchairs. This one required a 6-year-old's acting skills and a stuffed animal with secrets. As the intruders advanced, Lily prayed Ethan remembered their game, the one they'd played at the hospital where he pretended to sleep through vital checks. The game where being perfectly still meant winning. The lights came back on with a surge. Ethan lay motionless, the dinosaur clutched to his chest. And the SD card? Already tucked safely in the one place no one would look the toe of Rosa's old ballet slipper in the hall closet. The endgame had arrived. The screen door slammed as Ethan wheeled himself onto the porch, his new service dog, a golden retriever named Scout, bounding after him. "Lily, come see." Lily wiped her hands on a dish towel, joining him in the afternoon sun. Ethan pointed to the mailbox where a familiar figure leaned against a pickup truck, Marcus Stone, holding a thick manila envelope. "Special delivery," Marcus called, tossing the package to Lily. "Declassified FBI files. Thought you might want closure." Inside were crime scene photos of the Blackwood Library. The Shakespeare collection splayed open, revealing something no one had expected. Page 47 of Hamlet contained a handwritten note in Richard's precise script. "If found after my death, deliver to Ethan Montgomery Blackwood." Ethan's fingers trembled as he unfolded the letter. Lily expected confessions, maybe more lies. Instead, it was a child's drawing a stick-figure family with 4 people labeled Dad, Mom, Uncle Marcus. Me dated 2 weeks before the accident that changed everything. Richard had kept it all these years. Marcus cleared his throat. Your dad wasn't always the monster he became, kid. The Volkov deal broke something in him. He knelt beside Ethan's wheelchair. But this, he tapped the drawing. This is the real him, the one who loved you before the money poisoned everything. From the kitchen window, Vivian and Rosa watched the scene their unlikely friendship forged in fire. Vivian no longer wore designer labels, just simple jeans and the silver St. Christopher medal around her neck. You okay? Rosa asked softly. Vivian touched the medal. Weird, isn't it? After everything, the lies, the danger, we ended up with the one thing Richard's money couldn't buy. Outside, laughter erupted as Scout licked Ethan's face, the dog's tail wagging wildly. A family, Rosa finished. Not perfect, not storybook, but real. And as Lily joined in the laughter, she realized, some rescues don't happen in single moments. They unfold over years through small acts of courage until one day you look around and realize, you're not just the person who saved someone. You're the person who stayed. The screen door banged again as Ethan raced inside to show his mom the drawing scout at his heels, his wheelchair leaving tracks in the fresh spring grass. New growth, new beginnings. And somewhere in a federal prison, a broken man stared at a photo on his wall, the same beach picture Ramirez had shown Ethan months before. The last remnant of the man he might have been. The man his son would remember now thanks to a girl who jumped into a pool, a mother who refused to disappear, and the truth that finally set them all free. The water shimmered like liquid gold as Ethan sliced through the pool, his arms strong and sure. Lily sat on the edge, her feet dangling in the water, watching the boy who'd changed her life as much as she'd changed his. Vivian appeared beside her, handing her a lemonade. He's getting faster every week, she said proudly. Lily nodded, sipping the tart sweet drink. Funny how life worked. The woman who'd once dismissed her as the help now trusted her with carpool schedules and homework help. A splash interrupted them as Ethan surfaced, grinning. Did you see that flip? Olympic material, Lily called back. As he dove under again, Vivian's voice turned serious. The FBI called this morning. Richard's up for parole in 6 months. The lemonade turned sour in Lily's mouth. Vivian squeezed her hand. Don't worry. He'll never find us. But that's not why I told you. She nodded toward Ethan, now practicing backstroke. I think it's time he knew the whole truth. The good and the bad. Later, as they dried off in the afternoon sun, Ethan surprised them both. I know Dad might get out soon, he said matter-of-factly, wringing water from his swim shirt. Uncle Marcus told me. Lily's heart clenched. How do you feel about that? Ethan considered this, spinning one wheel of his chair absently. Kinda sad for him. Sad? Vivian blinked. Yeah, Ethan shrugged. He had everything, but he was still empty inside. Like that bad guy in my video game who keeps collecting coins but never gets happy. The wisdom of it took Lily's breath away. Some people spent lifetimes learning what this kid knew in his bones. As they loaded into the car, Ethan insisting on taking the front seat. Vivian pretending to protest, Lily caught sight of their reflection in the rearview mirror. A former socialite turned soccer mom, a janitor's daughter turned college student, and a boy who'd lost everything but gained something better. Not a perfect family. Their family. The radio played some pop song as they drove home, Ethan singing off-key, Vivian laughing despite herself, Scout panting happily in the back. And Lily, she watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of hope, thinking of how far they'd come, and how the best chapters were still unwritten. Some stories begin with a fall, but the best ones, they begin with the courage to rise.